We are coming on the air with breaking news out of the Middle East. On March 14th, at 2:47 a.m. local time, 12 Iranian ballistic missiles struck Ben Gurion International Airport on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. 4 missiles hit the main runway, creating craters up to 15 meters wide. 3 missiles struck the aircraft parking areas where 73 commercial and military aircraft were parked. 2 missiles hit the fuel storage tanks, igniting fires that are still burning 18 hours later. 2 missiles struck Terminal 3, causing structural collapse. 1 missile hit the air traffic control tower. 89 people were killed, most of them ground crews, overnight maintenance workers, and passengers sleeping in the terminal awaiting morning flights. People were injured, and at this moment, Ben Gurion International Airport is completely closed. No flights are landing, and no flights are taking off. All international air service to and from Israel has been canceled indefinitely. Israel's only major international airport has been destroyed, and the country is now cut off from the global economy. Ben Gurion handles more than 20 million passengers per year. It is Israel's economic lifeline to the outside world. Tourism, business travel, cargo operations, medical evacuations, and military logistics all depend on the functioning of this airport. Without it, Israel cannot easily receive emergency supplies, cannot evacuate foreign nationals, cannot maintain normal commercial operations, and cannot project the image of stability that foreign investment requires. The repair timeline is estimated at a minimum of 6 to 12 months. During that time, Israel will be economically isolated in ways that no amount of military success can compensate for. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly what occurred during the attack, the 73 aircraft that were destroyed, and what their loss means for Israel's aviation industry, why the Iron Dome failed to stop a single missile despite firing 31 interceptors, and how Iran has just achieved a strategic objective that cripples Israel's economy without requiring a single ground troop. We are now on day 15 of this war. Iran has launched more than 650 ballistic missiles since February 28th. Most of those missiles have targeted military installations, government buildings, and infrastructure that supports Israel's war effort. But the attack on Ben Gurion represents something different. This was not about destroying military capability. This was about isolating Israel from the world and creating economic damage that will persist long after any ceasefire is signed. Ben Gurion International Airport is located approximately 15 kilometers southeast of Tel Aviv. It is Israel's largest airport and handles almost all of the country's international passenger traffic. The airport has 3 terminals. Terminal 3 is the main international terminal and handles the majority of passenger traffic. The airport has 2 runways. The main runway is runway 01-26, which is 3,570 meters long and handles all wide-body international flights. The secondary runway is runway 03-21, which is 2,800 meters long and primarily handles domestic flights and smaller regional aircraft. On a typical night, Ben Gurion has between 50 and 80 aircraft parked at gates, on the aprons, and in maintenance areas. On the night of March 13th to the 14th, the airport had 73 aircraft on the ground. That number is higher than normal because international airlines had been reducing flight frequency due to the war, but many operators were still running limited service. Aircraft that would normally be turned around quickly were spending more time on the ground waiting for connecting passengers or cargo. At 2:47 a.m., Israeli radar systems detected 12 ballistic missile launches from western Iran. The missiles were identified as Khorramshahr-4 based on trajectory and speed. Air raid sirens were activated at Ben Gurion and throughout the surrounding area. Airport security initiated emergency protocols. Ground crews began moving to shelters, but there was not enough time. The missiles covered the distance from western Iran to Tel Aviv in approximately 7 minutes. The Iron Dome batteries protecting Ben Gurion engaged the incoming missiles. 31 interceptors were fired. Not a single interception attempt was successful. All 12 Khorramshahr-4 missiles reached their targets, and when those missiles impacted, they destroyed Israel's connection to the rest of the world. Now we need to talk about what was destroyed, because the 73 aircraft that burned at Ben Gurion represent one of the largest single-event aviation losses in history. El Al, Israel's national airline, had 23 wide-body aircraft on the ground at the time of the attack. These were Boeing 787 Dreamliners and Boeing 777s. Each aircraft is valued at approximately $300 million. 23 aircraft at $300 million each equals $6.9 billion in losses for El Al alone. But the financial impact is worse than that, because El Al's entire long-haul fleet was concentrated at Ben Gurion. The airline has essentially lost its ability to operate international routes. El Al is now facing bankruptcy. Foreign airlines also suffered massive losses. United Airlines had 7 Boeing 787s on the ground. Lufthansa had 5 Airbus A350s. Delta had 4 Boeing 777s, and British Airways had 3 Airbus A380s. Other airlines, including Air France, KLM, Turkish Airlines, and Emirates, had a combined total of 12 aircraft parked at Ben Gurion. Those aircraft were either waiting for morning departures or had arrived late and were scheduled to leave the next day. When the missiles struck the aircraft parking areas, the fuel tanks of those aircraft ignited. Wide-body jets carry tens of thousands of gallons of jet fuel. When that fuel ignites, the fires burn at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees. The aircraft structures melt, and everything inside burns. By the time fire crews could respond, the aircraft were total losses. The Israeli Air Force also lost 19 military aircraft that were parked in a section of Ben Gurion used for military logistics and transport operations. These included F-15 fighters undergoing maintenance, C-130 transport aircraft, and smaller military planes used for reconnaissance and communications. Those losses degrade Israel's airlift capability and reduce the number of fighters available for combat operations. All told, 73 aircraft were destroyed. El Al, 23 aircraft, $6.9 billion. Foreign airlines, 31 aircraft, approximately $4 to $5 billion, depending on aircraft type. Israeli Air Force, 19 aircraft, approximately $1 to $2 billion. Total estimated losses, $12 to $15 billion. That is the largest destruction of aircraft in a single event since September 11, 2001, when nearly 300 aircraft were destroyed or damaged at multiple airports across the United States. Most people believe that Israel's Iron Dome system is designed to protect high-value targets like airports. That is correct. Ben Gurion was protected by 3 Iron Dome batteries positioned around the airport's perimeter. Those batteries were fully operational on the night of March 13th, and they failed completely. Here's what happened. According to preliminary IDF assessments, the 12 Khorramshahr-4 missiles approached Ben Gurion from multiple directions simultaneously. Each missile carries a cluster warhead that deploys 10 submunitions during terminal descent. That means 12 missiles became 120 separate targets. The Iron Dome tracked the incoming missiles and attempted to intercept them. 31 interceptors were fired, but the Khorramshahr-4's submunitions are designed to evade interception. They maneuver unpredictably during descent using GPS guidance and control fins. They are deployed at low enough altitudes that the Iron Dome has very little engagement time. And when 120 submunitions arrive simultaneously, the defensive system cannot process them fast enough. Not a single missile was intercepted. All 12 reached their target zones. The submunitions struck the runways, terminals, fuel storage, aircraft parking, and the control tower with precision. The attack was designed to cause maximum operational disruption and maximum economic damage, and it succeeded. The runway craters are 15 meters wide and 5 meters deep. Repairing them requires excavation, backfilling, and repaving with reinforced concrete capable of supporting wide-body aircraft. The repair timeline for the main runway alone is 4 to 6 months. Terminal 3 suffered structural collapse when 2 missiles struck the building. The entire terminal will likely need to be demolished and rebuilt. That is a 12 to 18-month project. The 73 aircraft wrecks need to be cleared from the aprons and taxiways before normal operations can resume. That is a 2 to 3 month process involving cutting the burned aircraft into pieces and hauling away the debris. And fuel contamination from the fires at the storage tanks has spread across sections of the airport. Jet fuel has soaked into the ground and will require environmental remediation before those areas can be safely used. That adds another 3 to 4 months to the timeline. The optimistic estimate for reopening Ben Gurion is September 2026. The realistic estimate is January 2027. Israel will be without a functioning international airport for at least 6 months and possibly up to 10 months. This is not the first time an airport has been destroyed during a military conflict. On July 13, 2006, Israeli Air Force jets bombed Rafik Hariri International Airport in Beirut, Lebanon. The attack destroyed the runways and put the airport out of service for weeks. Israel's justification was that Hezbollah was using the airport to transport weapons and personnel. The international community condemned the attack as a disproportionate use of force against civilian infrastructure. Now, 20 years later, Iran has done the exact same thing to Israel, and the strategic impact is far worse because Israel has no alternative international airports. Lebanon could divert some traffic through Damascus or other regional airports. Israel cannot. Ben Gurion is the only airport in Israel capable of handling wide-body international flights. There are smaller airports in Haifa and Eilat, but they cannot accommodate Boeing 787s or Airbus A350s. They are designed for regional turboprops and smaller jets. That detail matters because it means Israel is now completely dependent on sea and land routes for imports and exports, and both of those routes are compromised. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed for 15 days, blocking oil shipments. Iranian missiles have struck ships in the Mediterranean. Land routes through Jordan and Egypt are slower and more expensive than air freight. Israel's supply chain is collapsing, and the economic costs are staggering. Every week that Ben Gurion remains closed costs the Israeli economy an estimated $2 to $3 billion. Tourism revenue, $450 million per week lost. Business travel, $200 million per week. Cargo operations, $100 million per week. Add the indirect costs of reduced foreign investment, canceled contracts, and business relocations, and the total economic damage could exceed $150 billion if the airport remains closed for a year. Towards the end, I want to show you the insurance cascade that is making this crisis even worse. Because while Israel is trying to figure out how to repair Ben Gurion, the global aviation insurance industry is deciding that Israeli operations are uninsurable. Aviation insurance works on the principle that catastrophic events are rare. An attack on a major airport that destroys 73 aircraft in one night is not rare. It is a proven, repeatable threat. Insurance companies are now recalculating their risk models for Ben Gurion. Even after the airport is repaired, insurers are indicating they will not provide coverage for aircraft operations at Ben Gurion unless Israel can demonstrate reliable protection against ballistic missile attacks. And Israel cannot demonstrate that. The Iron Dome just failed completely. El Al is facing an insurance claim of $8 to $12 billion for its destroyed fleet. That is the largest single aviation insurance payout in history. The insurance companies that cover El Al are already indicating they will not renew policies for any replacement aircraft operating out of Ben Gurion. That means even if El Al had the money to buy new planes, it could not insure them, and without insurance, the airline cannot operate. Foreign airlines are making similar calculations. Lufthansa, United, Delta, and British Airways all lost aircraft at Ben Gurion. Their insurance companies are paying out billions in claims, and those same insurers are telling the airlines, "We will not cover future operations into Ben Gurion until the security situation fundamentally changes." If foreign airlines cannot get insurance, they will not return to Israel even after the airport reopens. Israel faces a scenario where Ben Gurion is repaired, but remains largely empty because no airline can afford the insurance costs of operating there. On March 14th at 6 a.m., 4 hours after the attack, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened an emergency cabinet meeting. According to sources who attended, Netanyahu was presented with a retaliatory option of striking Iran's Imam Khomeini International Airport. The argument was that Iran had destroyed Israel's airport, so Israel should destroy Iran's airport. An eye for an eye. Netanyahu decided against it. The reason: attacking a civilian airport in Tehran would kill hundreds of Iranian civilians and cross a line that would make it impossible to maintain international support for Israel's military operations. It would also invite further Iranian retaliation against Israeli civilian infrastructure and would not solve the fundamental problem, which is that Israel cannot defend Ben Gurion from Iranian ballistic missiles. Instead, Netanyahu made a brief statement to the press. He said, "We are assessing the damage and will ensure that Ben Gurion is rebuilt stronger than before. We cannot guarantee it will not be hit again, but we are working with our American partners to improve our defensive capabilities." That statement tells you everything. He cannot guarantee it will not happen again. That means when Ben Gurion reopens, it will still be a target. The airlines know it, the insurers know it, and the traveling public knows it. Nobody wants to fly through an airport that the Prime Minister admits he cannot defend. The broader pattern continues to accelerate. More than 14 Iranian civilians confirmed dead. 19 U.S. service members killed across the region. The Strait of Hormuz closed for 15 days, oil prices above $115 a barrel. And now Israel's only international airport destroyed with 73 aircraft burned and 6 to 12 months before operations can resume. 12 missiles, 73 aircraft destroyed, 89 dead. Ben Gurion closed indefinitely. Repair timeline of 6 to 12 months, $2 to $3 billion per week in economic losses. El Al facing bankruptcy. Foreign airlines refusing to return. Insurance companies declaring Ben Gurion uninsurable. and Netanyahu admitting he cannot guarantee it will not happen again. Iran has just achieved a strategic victory without landing a single soldier on Israeli soil. Cutting off Israel's airport cripples the economy, isolates the country, and creates costs that will persist for years. This is not about winning battles. It is about making Israel economically unsustainable. Iran destroyed 73 aircraft in one attack and forced the closure of Israel's only international airport. That is an economic war that no amount of air strikes against Iranian military targets can compensate for.